Good day everyone, my name is Ryan Jimlaude and today we will be presenting the Abaknon's Ingenuity Creative Strategies Amidst Uncertainties. So the main source of information of this topic is Mr. Victor Oliver Kabakang. He lived in the island, in the Kapul Island or the municipality of Kapul and also in Barangay Oson, Kapul Island. Victor is a full-time farmer and also he is a fisher. And also Victor is respected as a local healer in that island. So the Abaknon community of Kapol Island, of course, they are called Abaknon or Abaknon Sama or Kapolenyo or Sama. And they speak in Abaknon or a Sama Bajau language but distinct culturally. Because according to the linguist, the in Abaknon belongs to the family of Sama Bajau. And also, mostly the people who live there is mostly Catholic, unlike Muslim or yung mga Sama Bajau groups nung una. So, they are no longer culturally affiliated because nasakop sila because of the Spaniards na nanakop noon. So the next one is, this is the picture of the Kapul Island that is situated in the San Bernardo Strait, South Province of Northern Samar, Philippines. So the next one is the Abaknon community of Kapul Island. So these islands, in old days, these islands serve as the key stopover in Manila Acapulco Galleon trade. And also it is known as Kapul Imbo Cadero in Old Spanish. And also, it is a home to historical landmark. So, in that particular photo, that is Forza de Capol, which means the church or the Catholic church in that island. So, the next one is, this is the location of the island in the Philippines. So, makikita nyo dyan kung saan siya, kung saang island at kung anong barangay nakasituated yung pag-research nila in that particular place. So this is the Kalong-Kalong Island. As based on the portrait, that island is very sacred kasi maraming mga spirit na nandyan. That is the serve as their sacred place para sa kanila. Kasi maraming mga spirits na nandyan, maraming pag-iingat na ginagawa nila dyan in terms of fishing. So the next one is will be tackled by Miss Jana.
Good day. Now I will be discussing this livelihood calendar from Barangay Oson, Kapul Island in Northern Samar. So this visual was developed through a focus group discussion or FGD with local community members and shows how their farming and fishing activities organized throughout the year. So let's start from the outermost circle, which shows the months of the year from January to December. And then moving inward, the next circle naman represents the seasonal livelihood activities practiced by the Abaknon people. So for example, makikita natin yung coconut farming, which is yun yung kanilang primary livelihood, and it is not limited to a season because it is an all year round activity. So that is why it isn't highlighted in a specific month, instead it is always ongoing. And now looking at the months from March to June, makikita natin yung kitang fishing and seaweed farming. So these two are seasonal livelihood activities. The kitang fishing is usually na nangyayari siya during the dry season because during dry season kasi is mas calm yung dagat and mas easy na manguha ng isda and mas productive siya. And then seaweed farming on the other hand naman is aligns with periods when water salinity and temperature are ideal for growth. And then from the month of September to November, yung focus naman niya is nag-shift towards the root crop farming. So this fits the post-monsoon period when the soil is moist and more suitable for planting and harvesting crops like cassava and sweet potato and other root crops. So in the center of the diagram, makikita natin yung mga seasonal winds, the amihan or the northeast monsoon, and the habagat or the southwest monsoon. And also, makikita natin yung mga transitional periods niya, the tagtuyot and the tag-ulan or the wet and the dry season. So these monsoon cycles heavily influence the timing of farming and fishing. And yung mga Abaknon people is natutunan na rin nilang mag-adjust sa mga routines sila based on these climatic patterns that they have. So this slide naman it highlights the use of coconut shells or locally called pamukahan which play an important role in the community's livelihood. So this shell is hindi siya nasasayang because ginagamit or nire-reuse nila ito in another essential activity called pag-uring, which means the charcoal making. So this shows how the community practices sustainability by maximizing the use of the coconut plants. However, as emphasized by a local farmer, yung top priority ng Barangay Oson is still the copra, which is the dried coconut meat used for extracting coconut oil. Now let's move on to another major livelihood, which is the fishing. So there are different types of fishing gear na ginagamit nila. So kabilang na doon yung pamburugkas or net fishing, which is it is used to catch fish like dalagang bukid, tamban, and turoy in the fishing ground known as Kabuda Saknib. So itong pamburugkas is usually na ginagawa ito from the month of April to May. And another traditional fishing gear that they have is the lagolo or the hook and line fishing, which has subtypes like rapala. So yung rapala is isa siyang artificial wooden bite shaped like a fish, and then it is used to catch mamsa and batog. Then isda, which uses fresh fish as bite for catching tangege and budlis. And they also have rambo. It is also an artificial wooden shrimp bite for catching a wide variety of fish like dugso, baraka, danggit, and more in fishing areas like mahayag, takot, madikit, and kaburihan. So these activities is usually na ginagawa siya from the month of April to July. So, another fishing gear na ginagamit ng mga Abaknon people is the kitang. So, yung kitang is isa siyang long line fishing gear which perpendicularly attach lines with hooks, and also the pana or the spear, orang-orang, pangkweta, and then panuos. So, this 5 fishing gear is, yung fishing ground nila is same lang, which is the bihing. And then the kitang and pano or the spear is usually na nangyayari siya during the month of April to June, and then orang-orang is June to December, and then the pangkweta and the panuos from September to December.
I'm Saina Tomar, and I'm going to discuss the climate change reality. So this table explains the experience of Victor in dealing with various manifestations of climate change. It highlights 3 major environmental issues: typhoons, drought, and pest infestations, the observed effects, and adaptation mechanisms. First is the typhoon or bagyo, Typhoon Dinang in 1981 and Typhoon Kaloy in 2006. Its observed effects: the entire island was affected, no agriculture crops, destruction of motorized and non-motorized bangka and fishing gears, the rapid or stop schooling. Its adaptation mechanisms is it resorted to gulaman, a substitute to copra, survival foods such as baay, adot, badunggay, sumaw, talian. Some heads of families went to metro areas or Manila and Cebu for employment. Next is the drought in 1983 and 1984 and 2000 to 2002. So observed effects: rice and upland farms become unproductive, coastal ecosystems dried up, affected seaweed collection, and coconut production declined. Its adaptation mechanisms: they also used gulaman as income source. They also relied on survival foods like baay, adot, and badunggay. Lastly is the Brontispa beetle infection. Its observed effects: coconut trees stopped producing young fronds were eaten by beetles. Its adaptation mechanisms followed by PCA guidance and used chemical control. So in summary, Victor highlights how climate change has direct impacts on people's lives, from extreme weather to reduced agricultural productivity. So despite these challenges, the community showed resilience by adapting through traditional knowledge, alternative food sources, and migration. So next is the learning traditional knowledge, learning about climate change and adaptation. So Victor's ecological knowledge and adaptation strategies has 6 categories. First is the source of knowledge. He gained through intergenerational transmission, like his parents and grandparents, acquired by closely observing veteran farmers and fishers. For example, he can determine wind direction in relation to sea currents. Next is the climate adaptation. Develop adaptive strategies to environmental and climate-related impacts. Next is the support systems and community involvement. Active member of civic organizations and gains updates and new techniques through participation in meetings and flora. Next is the preparedness for natural phenomena. Stays informed about huraw, drought, bagyo, typhoon, linog, and other events. Next is the information dissemination mechanisms. Bandilyo, which means house-to-house or public forum announcements by the barangay council, access to radio and TV for continuous information, and SMS and phone networks for cross communication. And lastly is the role of government. Municipal Agriculture Office broadcast agriculture-related info, local government units LGU handles disaster-related announcements. In summary, Victor's experience is a strong example of how traditional knowledge, community cooperation, and government support can work together to help people prepare for and adapt to the effects of climate change.
I'm Rofame Gomez Atagan, and I will be discussing about rising from climate change. So to deal with the effects of climate change, Victor and the Abaknon community use different strategies. So their strategies fall into two main types, which is the innovations and traditional ecological knowledge. So in technological innovations, these involve using new tools or process like changing farming tools of how they fish. In behavioral innovations demand, we have these are changes in how people normally do things like planting crops of a different time of the year. We have the traditional ecological knowledge. On the other hand, is based on old practices passed down through generations. So these are usually used as quick responses when the effects of climate change are strong, but when things seem normal again, these practices are often paused. So next we have here the slope category and the type of crops cultivated in Barangay Uson, Capul Island, Northern Samar. So farmers in Capul have created a special farming system called a multi-slope rotating crop calendar. This means they plant different crops in different areas and at different times based on what grows best in each place and season. So, however, most of the land on Capul Island is used for growing coconuts, which limits what other crops can be grown. Only crops that can grow in the shade because, for example, yung corn is no longer planted because it needs full sunlight, which isn't possible under coconut trees. So it's clear that coconut is the main crop and any farming techniques or new technologies used to adapt to climate change must work well with coconut farming. So we have here the orang-orang, an active fishing gear used as bait for hook and line deep sea fishing, yung sa left na picture. And we have different types of tora-tora or passive fishing gear that is imitative of its intended catch, primarily octopus and also cuttlefish. So next we have here the adot. It's dish cooked in coconut milk and sugar. So it is harvested when the plant is already nearing its maturity stage. Then next we have here the Abaknon harvest or the baay roots deeply buried in the ground, yung sa left na picture. And we have here the fibrous baay ready to be cooked in coconut milk and sugar, yung nasa right naman na picture. Lastly, we have examples of coastal foraging or freshly harvested gulaman that could be processed into jelly, yung nasa left na picture, and gusto that is typically eaten like a salad. In conclusion, Victor's vision reflects the deep-rooted values of the Abaknon people: simplicity, education, and cultural pride. While he prioritizes the formal education of his children, he also strongly advocates for the revival and integration of traditional ecological knowledge. His belief that modern technologies should enhance, not replace, indigenous knowledge highlights a sustainable path forward for Capul Island. With proper support from relevant institutions, the blending of all the new strategies can ensure both climate resilience and cultural continuity for future generations.